Okay, there we go. So we're going to start with why study statistics and data analysis. Now, I put two different words in here, statistics and data analysis. Okay, statistics. Usually when we refer to statistics and data analysis, there are two different areas of how we evaluate things. So really statistics, usually when we talk about statistics, even though it's not correct, usually when we talk about statistics, it is the quantitative. It's the one where we use numbers. Okay, so most of the time, if people are talking about statistics, they're talking about the quantitative, which use numbers. And there's certain rules on how those are used, how those are calculated, what kind of studies use those, etc. These are more that you can take the information, can be generalized. It can usually be generalized so that you can say, well, this is probably true for a population, okay? Data analysis is taking any data and analyzing it, okay? That could be questions to a survey. That could be how many times you say the word "and" when you talk. It can be how many, a survey of how people feel after they've taken a medicine. So those are not being measured. It's more of a feelings or subjective type thing. So data analysis is just analyzing data. It's usually called qualitative, which means it's based on words. Okay, so we're looking at the words you say, looking to see if they're similar, if they're different, what are the commonalities. This cannot be generalized. This is just for information gathering. We cannot really conclude anything from qualitative, okay? And there's a big argument right now with statisticians and data analysis of what can be really true. Do I have to, if I do a data analysis, do I have to back it up with statistics? And that's the big question, is what are we going to count as what can be generalized? And so this is actually quite a process. Data analysis or statisticians are in demand. Why do you think that's true? Why do you think data analysis and statisticians are in demand right now as careers? Yeah.
People want to know it's true.
Okay, people want to know what's true. What else do we have? What is our society called? Do you know what it's called? It's an information society. We keep track of everything. Think about it. Google keeps track of where I search. You know, because they want to know what I search, and then they give me advertisements on that search. So they are keeping track of everything you do. I was just watching a TV or a news thing last night, and they were talking about how all new cars keep all sorts of data on you. Like where you drive, how fast you drive, how hard you hit on the brakes, all sorts of things, how long it's sitting in one spot. They actually then give those out. There is no thing of privacy with cars right now. They give them out and sell them to other people. Illegal. But they're trying to bring that in because right now they're keeping all this data because they have the smart computers of how close you might get to somebody. You know, are you driving really close on somebody's bumper? They might have that data because they have all these cameras and stuff in cars now. And so they keep all sort of data. It was kind of scary when I heard all the stuff they did. The part that I didn't like was that they use that and they'll sell it to other people. Then they can use it to sell you things or to who knows what with it. Okay. They could track you down because if they sell where you're at, it's kind of like, that is really going into my privacy. I don't like that. Okay. So it was very interesting for me to hear about what they are collecting on us from new cars. Now, old cars don't do that. There's some advantage to not having a new car. So that's one of the advantages. Okay, so it's interesting to know. So data analysis and statistics are really, we want to study them. Let's turn to the second page. Why do we want to? Because as I told you on there at the top, we are an information society. Okay, people are collecting data in everywhere. That's what it says there. Collected data everywhere. Okay, we just collect it. Sometimes we don't even know why we collect it. Whenever you buy something at most stores now, it's recorded because they ask you, do you have your card, your phone number, your account number, and they record it. Like if you give them your phone number and that's your account, they record what you sell. And then I get, like from Fred Meyer, because I happen to buy a lot at Fred Meyer, I get customized coupons. So they're on the things I buy often or frequently. They're customized. And I can tell. I know what I buy frequently, and these all apply. So I get customized. So they keep track of what you buy. So it's kind of scary. Anytime they ask for that account information, they're keeping, they might give you rewards, but their other alternative or thing is for advertising. They can do targeting advertising that way. Get you back in the store because they're going to give you a coupon for your favorite thing. Okay, so that's kind of the things that you do. As you see on here, so what you buy is very common. Websites you go to. Google keeps track. It's very eerie. I haven't figured out how they keep track of my voice, but I know on my phone, if I talk about something with somebody else, I will soon see ads popping up for that. Very interesting. Don't know why they've got that capability. I need to know how to shut it off is what I want to figure out, how to shut it off so they can't hear what I'm saying on my phones. Okay. We keep track of temperatures. This is all the time. You hear what is the high, what's the low for today. We keep track of how is that changing over time. Okay. We keep track of ocean levels. Okay, ocean levels go up and down. They actually do go up or down. We keep track of low tides, high tides. How high was it and how low does it go? So there's a normal spot they consider normal as where the tide should come to. If it comes less than that, it's farther out and it doesn't come in as far, that could be negative. If it comes up high, that's positive. Usually that's the difference between low and high tide though. One's negative, one's positive, but not always. Sometimes a low tide can be positive numbers. Okay, so it's just kind of how far it comes in. It's usually by feet. Okay, opinions. I mean, if you go to the mall at any time, you'll see somebody come ask, can I ask your opinion on this survey? They have people at the mall designated to take surveys. Okay, and so that is something. Your opinions, they're always telling you how many people are in favor of this candidate versus that candidate. That's an opinion. Okay, did you like going? How was your experience when you went to this restaurant? The restaurant wants you to rate it 5 because then they pop up with a better score. They want you to rate it 5. They don't want you to rate it 1 or 0 because they want a better score. And so that's your opinion. How did you experience this? That's an opinion. So there's all sorts of ways that we keep data. I mean, everywhere you look. We measure babies. How much did they weigh? How much did they measure lengthwise? We keep track of all that data. Okay? We look at what are the grades in school. So a particular school, we look at their average grades of all their students. Or go to another school and look at their average grades. They are not comparable, by the way. You cannot put the averages against each other because they really don't make sense. Because you have one school, it depends on what the social economic climate is of that school. That means what kind of people come to the school. Are they rich? Are they more poor? Is it a whole bunch of different types? Okay. On another school, it might be they have higher incomes but the parents are not as involved. You can have lower incomes and parents are more involved. So you can't compare two schools really, because they're not the same. Okay. So that's one reason we study, because you are going to be inundated as you get older with commercials, with products, with ratings, with statistics saying what the average birth rate should be, and if your baby's too hot, too big, or too small, all those kind of things. You're going to be inundated with all sorts of numbers in your life. You need to know how to understand those, and that's really what this whole class is about. How do we understand that? Okay. So statistics or data analysis. Okay. Both of them, so you can turn to the third page there, the one that says statistics at the top. Okay. They can appear as cold, hard facts. Okay. 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Crest. Sounds like a fact, doesn't it? Do you have any questions about that statement? 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Crest. Guys, you have any questions about that? You believe it?
No.
Why don't you believe it?
Because it might not be true. Like, what are their, like, how did they prove that?
Okay, so how did they do that study?
Yeah.
We have no idea what the statement. A statement always should be referenced to some sort of study or explained how it was figured out. Do you have any other questions about 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Crest? I was trying to think what I said. So, what are some other questions about that? Yes.
How many people did they have in there?
Yeah. How many people did they interview? Did they interview 10? 10 dentists, and none of them said they recommended Crest. Does that really say 9 out of 10 dentists across the country recommend Crest? Not if they only talk to 10 people. Okay. What could have swayed that statistic? What do you think could have swayed that statistic? Yes.
Bias?
What bias?
Maybe this person really likes crust, so they want to maybe sell crust or something.
Okay, yes. Dentists actually get, which they're not supposed to, but they'll figure out all sorts of ways they can get bonuses. The salespeople come to them and tell them, please recommend our brand. Okay, they may give them some sort of incentive to sell that brand. So when you ask the dentist, it may not be he at home, does he use Crest? We don't know. Okay, that would be more of a question I would ask a dentist. What toothpaste do you use at home? That would be a little bit more accurate than what the person is trying to tell him to sell, because he gets some sort of incentive off it, some money or some sort of bonus, a trip. All those kind of things happen when you sell, you recommend them to buy your product, because they think you're the expert and you're telling them what they recommend, so that has to be expert advice, so they will probably believe you. And so there's biases there. Okay, so they're actually only interpretations of data. When we talk about statistics and we look at statements, there's somebody's interpretation of the data. Okay, the problem is we can mislead people with these. We can give out pseudo facts, which are incorrect facts because we just made them up. Okay, we can give out distortions of the truth. Okay, or it can do outright lie with our statistics. Statistics can be true, but they may be an outright lie. The old adage is 75% of all statistics are lies. Don't believe me because I just made that up. That's a pseudo fact. That's a misrepresentation. I just made it up. I don't know how many are actual lies. I've never done a study, never looked at a study, but that's the old one just to get you. 75% of all statistics are lies. You're going, oh, really? No, I just made that up. I don't know what it is. But people say stuff like that all the time. They come up with a number. I was just up in this was pretty funny. I was just up in Victoria, Canada, and we went on some different little information things. You can go on a bus ride and they give you information about the town. You can go on a water taxi, they give you information about the town. You can go on a horse carriage, they give you information about the town. So I mean, there's all these different ways to get information about the town. So we heard 3 different things about the Empress Hotel. One thing is a true fact. It was built on swampland, and they filled it in with whatever, dirt and sand and rocks and everything. They filled it in to build the Empress Hotel. This was 90 to 100 years ago, okay? As we were going around, one person told us, this hotel has been very stable since it was built. In fact, there's only a 2-inch difference between the height of one end and the other, the height of the other end from settling. So, okay, so remember it's fill, and they settled it. Okay, so when it settled, they said it's been very stable, 2 inches. Next guy we went on, now they acted like that was fact, right? I mean, who are we to debate that, you know? I should go look it up. The next person told us, oh my gosh, the Empress Hotel has never been stable. In fact, it sunk 9 feet from the first time it was built. So one side is 9 feet deeper, or in the hole 9 feet compared to the other, which I thought was kind of outrageous, because if you have 9 feet, you're going to be walking sideways, you know, so that seemed a little outrageous to me, but I didn't say anything. I just was listening. The next person told us, well, relatively stable, but it's in fact sunk 9 inches since the beginning. Okay, so now I have somebody that told me it sunk 2 inches, it was stable. Somebody that told me it was unstable and it sunk 9 feet. And somebody that told me, oh, it's relatively stable, it's sunk 9 inches. So one side's 9 inches lower than the other side. Okay, does that ever cause a problem? Like me, I'm hearing it in the same day. For me, my brain goes, wait a minute, somebody's got their facts wrong. Because those are not all true at the same time. It is not. Okay, guess which one is true? I did research this. Which one do you think is true? Yes. Go ahead.
None of them.
Actually, the 9 inches is correct.
Okay.
So the 9 inches is actually correct. And I kind of figured it might be because they gave 9 inches and 9 feet. And I'm thinking, I bet that one guy, he heard it wrong and he's got the wrong measurement there, the wrong unit. And so, yes, he did. So it didn't and so he's going 9 feet, that's a lot. So that's why he's saying it sunk a lot. Well, it really didn't. It was only 9 inches. 2 inches, not on fill. You're never going to have no settling on fill dirt. You are going to have some settling. So I knew it had to probably be 9 inches. My deduction was 9 inches just because of looking at those, but then I researched it and it truly was. So from the official Canadian site, I got that's how much it has sunk. So that's a better reference than my little tour guides. My tour guides weren't really experts in the field, but that can happen. So you can repeat that information so you hear it. Say you went one on one of them, it was 9 feet. You repeat it to somebody else, it's 9 feet. They repeat it to somebody else, it's 9 feet. Pretty soon, people are thinking that it sunk 9 feet. Okay, that's where we can get the language is used to sensationalize, inflate, confuse, and oversimplify. We use it to be confusing. Statisticians love, or politicians, or owners of businesses, they love to oversimplify it. They love to sensationalize it. Like, wow, did you hear? Okay. 10 out of 12 people brush their teeth every day. Whoop-de-doo-doo. Do I care? You probably do. 10 out of 12 people go to bed at night. Because there's a few that work graveyard. So, I mean, we can make things sensationalized, and it's like, think about it. Wait a minute. Does that even make sense? Okay, what they're saying, does it even make sense? We can inflate it. That's where we use the numbers to be a little bit higher, like round up on things. Round up, because we don't want it to sound quite as bad. Like if I say 2.2 versus 2.3, or let's do it this way, 2.4 versus 2.5, okay? Those are close together, right? What if we rounded one down to 2 and the other up to 3? I can say one is a difference of 2 to 3 now. Because 2.4 rounds down to 2. 2.5 rounds up to 3. Now I can make it bigger. I just inflated the numbers. I inflated the gap by rounding. And it makes it look bigger than it really is. So that's a way you can inflate. Okay? So, and they like to confuse people, especially politicians. Yes. Okay. Next page is misinformation. We want to know what statistics and data analysis are really teaching you. What are they saying? Because everywhere we find misinformation. It's given all the time. One of the things, because we have social media now, it's spread so much quicker because somebody reads an article, they spread it on to somebody else. The information can be totally wrong, but they didn't look at it closely, so they just spread it onto somebody else, and then they spread it onto somebody else, and pretty soon we have a whole bunch of misinformation out there. Okay, this is done tremendously by political parties. Democrats and Republicans both love to get information out that's not correct or not actually very correct. Okay, they love to focus on the things that are saying what's worse for their candidate, or best for their candidate and worse for the other candidate. It might not be a lie, but it might be a misinformation. Like they're taking it from just a sample and they're trying to generalize it. It wasn't a good sample. It doesn't work. They read it somewhere. They don't really know where the background came from. They don't know who did the study. They don't know how those numbers were gathered. TVs do that all the time. And I loved it one time. It was like, I'm trying to remember what it was, how much a person spends on something. And they said 1 trillion. And I laughed. Does anybody ever spend $1 trillion except for the really, really rich? And even $1 trillion, that's more than most governments spend, okay? They said 1 trillion and they didn't correct themselves. How did that get out to there? I want to know where all the people that were proofing their information was, because that should never have gotten out there so that they said it on TV. They should have people checking those facts. They should not be giving false information. That's what they did right there. It was such a blatant error. It was funny because it was like, there's no way. That's not the right answer. They put too many zeros in there. Might be 100,000, might be a million, maybe over the course of a lifetime, but nobody's going to reach 1 trillion. I'll just guarantee you that nobody as an individual family is going to reach that. Okay, especially if you're talking about food maybe that you spend it on. Okay, you're not going to reach that. That's just too big a number. And so that's how things get misstated. Then somebody passes, hey, did you hear this? And you put it on social media because it's easy. Click it and send it. And so all this misinformation gets sent. Okay, and so we end up with lots of people believing things that are really, really not true. They're exaggerated, they're lies, all that kind of stuff, okay? So we are studying statistics and data analysis so we can learn the language and the processes. We want to know what the language means because people can use words, and if you don't know what they mean, you don't understand what they're talking about. So you want to know, as an informed citizen, what are they talking about, okay? We are better equipped to evaluate statements that are out there. Because if we know what they're talking about or what to look for, we can better evaluate those statements, okay? So a lot of this is really doing your own research, and that's what people don't understand. They believe what's out there in the news or on in print, because if it's in print, it must be true, right? If it's on Google, it must be true. I mean, isn't that where we go to find out all of our information? We go to Google, and if it's there, it must be true. Okay, there's other things you have to do to check it. Okay. You make decisions then because you can evaluate the statements, you know the language, you make better informed decisions. You know what it's actually saying, so you can make a better informed decision. Whether you buy this more expensive item that's rated better by the consumers versus a less expensive item that's not rated as well. Do you spend the extra money for that rating? Do you not? Okay, those are questions to ask. Okay, you can go dig a little farther. Who did they research? Was it just an opinion poll on Google? I'll just tell you those are really flawed. They can be somewhat helpful. Okay, but usually the two people that are going to post are the ones that really liked it or the ones that are paid by them. If you will respond to the survey, we will give you an extra $5 off next time. Okay, what are you going to do? You're going to give a good review. Okay, or the people really got mad, so the low raters. Okay, but most of the time people kind of in between aren't going to post because it was just an okay, don't have anything to say. So most of those are inflated somewhat because some of them pay for their postings, their ratings. Okay, or they have their friends, their relatives, people that work there go on and evaluate it. That's misleading. Because now you've got all people that know or have an advantage. If they get good ratings, the workers like that because then they get more customers and then they have a job. Okay, so those are things to think about. We also do not spread misleading information because we can be as guilty as anybody else as saying, I heard this, but if you don't know if it's true or not, you're spreading misinformation or misleading information. Okay, so that's why we want to learn how to read things and know if they're true or not, especially an important decision. Like when I start to read things about some sort of treatment, those are very serious to me. Like if I'm talking about a medical treatment, to me that's very serious. Yes, I'm going to take the doctor's opinion, but I'm going to do a little of my own research because I want to see what it's saying about these different ones. Because doctors can also just give you all the positives and not all the negatives. They can, depending on what they do, can sway it. What part are they practicing? They may exclude nutrition or diet, and it could be just as beneficial as some of the medications. So you have to weigh things on that. Okay, so those are all things that you do. So let's go to the next page. The last page that you have is a breakdown of data science and what we're covering this year. And I've got to find mine. I don't know where it's at right at the moment. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, look at that, I found it. Okay, that wasn't too hard. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Well, yeah, we'll just turn this off because you can go through this. How do I stop?